anyway, Tony Barnhart is going to be on the show. We're going to talk about Alabama football because we are Joe Will and I are two big Alabama football fans. And, of course, we got Clacker.
First Auburn team since 2012, and we barely came away with a win. Tell me that's good.
Against our biggest rival. Auburn always brings their A game when it comes to Alabama. It's just what it is.
Care where we played it. That performance was unacceptable. We also got to remember, comparing this Auburn and Georgia defense is a hell of a lot better than Auburn's defense. 27-17 Georgia. Joe.
Just say go Dogs. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been one of the greatest experiences. No, you don't get to say that.
Joe Will, Clacker, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Does anybody have some crow prepared for Clack? Some fresh crow? Clacker. That was a tough little intro to watch with that. Clack, let's hear your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, Clacker.
I think we dominated, but I think we need to be careful with what we say because there's going to be a rematch probably.
Wait, you said we. Are you playing? You playing next week too?
I think we need to be more. Shut up, Joey. I think we need to be more careful. I think we need to quit talking like we've won the national championship, and we need to move on to Cincinnati and to Georgia to the next rematch with Georgia. I think I'm happy we won, but let's quit acting like we won the Natty.
You know what I just realized? Why has nobody on Twitter queued up that clip from Bill Belichick? It's like, we're on to Cincinnati. Like, I don't know. I just came up with that. Wow. I'm doing that, Clack. Don't Joey, take that. I need the followers. I need the followers, but that one's going to hit for sure.
Well, by the way, everybody, if you're watching right now, please like, share, comment. This is a laptop. This is your show. So whatever you want to say, you can say it right now. Right here, live on Roller of the Tide. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Facebook, and we're live on YouTube. We got the man, the myth, the legend, Joe Will. Joe, how you doing?
I'm good. I don't know if I'm a legend yet or necessarily a myth, but I'm definitely a man. So that's a good start. 1 out of the 3.
Well,
but I'm doing good.
Well, speaking of myth. Speaking of myth, your opinion is a myth, Clacker. So,
that third grade education is really talking for you tonight, Joey.
Somebody's when you get wrong, when you're wrong, you start being a little gangster. Now you gangster all of a sudden. I mean nothing. Listen. We told you that Alabama was going to win. Joe Will told you Alabama was going to win. I told you Alabama was going to win, and you just come on here and go Bulldogs! Woohoo! Now, how do you feel now? Did you put up your little Bulldog little mantle?
How do I feel? I mean, I'm happy, but I mean, again, let's win the Natty before we go celebrating like we won the Natty. I mean, you're sitting here acting like we won the Natty.
I didn't win nothing. I'm a fan. I wasn't playing.
There's 2 more games to go.
I think that we're not acting like we won the Natty, but with the way the media treated that game, I think Alabama fans have every right to take like a week and celebrate a little bit.
Is that what Coach Saban would say?
No, I mean it's not.
We're not on the team.
I know it's not, and I don't.
Doesn't matter, Joey.
I don't think the players are doing that, but I think the fans a little bit can. I'm giving everybody a free pass for a week just because of all the shit that was talked by Georgia fans, by media members, and then all those same people are backpedaling and they're picking Cincinnati to win against us or picking Georgia to beat us in the national championship like Pete Fiutak, who we're going to have on here just because they don't want to be wrong. And they can't accept the fact that Georgia is not this juggernaut team that they thought they were.
Let's talk about it real fast. 421 yards from Bryce Young. I mean, it was his
SEC championship record. Just throw that out there.
I mean, it was a breakout game. He showed the country why he's going to be the next Heisman Trophy winner. Let's talk about it. We all thought that. I mean, I would say this: we all thought that Georgia's defense was going to come and dominate a little bit. I thought it was going to be a closer game. I said 21-17, but Bama brought that offense. Clacker, when you saw that defense and you saw how Jordan was not really doing anything and pretty much giving up on plays, what did you think?
Well, I think it all goes back to something that I have said that I was actually right about. It is our whole game is based on the offensive line. Like, our whole outcome is based on the offensive line. The defense does its job. The defense has done its job this season. If the offensive line plays good, it gives Bryce plenty of time, and it doesn't matter who we're playing. We're going to move the football, and we're going to wear down the defense. And that's exactly what we did. And I think, as we kind of talked about in the backstage getting ready for the show, like, Georgia does not have – Georgia has some big guys on their defensive line, but when you're able to space them out and wear them down, I'm not saying they're not going to get better, and I don't want to jinx this because I have a way of jinxing things, but they did not show that they had the corners and the safeties to stick with us. And
go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's amazing. Like, the one key, as good as Bryce Young is, the simple one key to us win our success is give him time to throw the football. If the offensive line continues to and they don't, like I said last week, they don't have to be good. They don't have to be great. They just have to be decent. If they're decent and give Bryce Young time, we're going to win games.
Yeah, because you're going to see I understand. You're part of the team. But before I go to Joe, Spencer Raverly, our good
what's up, Spencer? Loyal viewer.
Thank you, Spencer. We love you, man. The probably I have is what Bama team is going to show up for next game. Probably what he has is what Bama team is going to show up. I'm sure you want. Okay, whatever. Spencer, you're the man, though. But Joe, honestly, I'm glad that Clacker didn't pick Alabama to win because he did. I think he did jinx Georgia. So please pick Cincinnati.
There's no Drake curse. The Drake curse doesn't exist. It's the Clack curse. I mean, Clack's throwing out that reverse jinx voodoo, knowing, like, I've seen him do it before. It's not even just with this week. He does it all the time. I mean, before even the Alabama game, the Big 12 championship game between Baylor and Oak State, Clack tweeted Oklahoma State won this game, and like they ended up losing. And I think it's a real thing that people need to be aware of.
Well, I think speaking of Cincinnati, we'll get into this later, but I'm not going to make a prediction of this game right now. We're a couple of weeks out from that, but I do think Desmond Ridder could be a little bit of a pain for a while, and I think it will be. I do think it will be a decent game. But
let me just say this right now, and you'll hear this here. Desmond Ridder is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in all of college football. And I'm just putting that out there right now. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that'll call me crazy and plenty of people that'll say, that's ridiculous. But I'm just going to say that right now. Like you said, we'll probably talk about it more later.
I
was just going to say, I kind of wanted to dive into recruiting unless you had a last word.
Yeah, I just want to read. Spencer had a great question. I want to read this one. Do y'all think Will Anderson will have the best postseason ever because of getting something in the awards? Short answer, yes.
Yes. Spencer, I think so.
Yeah, I think he will. He's just going to pick up right where he left off and being dominant. But let's get into Alabama recruiting because, man, did we pick up a huge recruit yesterday, right? The days all run together at this point. But Buford High School 4-star athlete Isaiah Bond committed to Alabama. He announced Thursday night. He was the number one athlete in the nation, according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. He picked the Crimson Tide over Georgia and Florida, which he decommitted from in November after former Florida coach Dan Mullen was fired. I believe in the video of his commitment, he said Florida was his dream school. Georgia was something or other, but Alabama was legendary. And I think that speaks volumes of how all these prospects view Alabama. Like, it might not be your dream school. You might not have seen yourself there, but they have a standard for being legendary and winning games and winning national championships. And so I thought that really stood out. After 6 commits in Alabama, the Crimson Tide have 4 commits from both Georgia and Florida. We've done a real good job recruiting in Florida. It's been a hotbed for talent. You know, we had Jerry Jeudy, who went on to have success for us, and he's doing pretty well in the NFL. Ballin is 5'11", 175 pounds. So he's not a terribly big guy, but he is very, very fast. He will join former Buford teammate safety Jake Pope in Alabama's class of 2022. The Crimson Tide now have 21 known commits, and they remain one of the top 3 classes in the country. 11 of those commits are ranked in the top 100 in the country, which is big. And with signing day just a couple weeks away, picking up a commit from Isaiah Bond is huge. And I said he was really, really fast. He runs a 10.48 in the 100-meter dash, which is insane to me. I mean, that's ridiculous.
So what do you think he's going to do for Alabama? Do you think he's going to start right away, or do you think he's going to – Nah.
I mean, I don't want – unless these guys are head over heels better than the other dudes we have, I do not want to see them start as freshmen. I like to see them kind of – the formula for Alabama that's worked is kind of gradually sprinkle them in throughout the year, and then when you get to the end of the year, they're ready – for the playoff run, and they're ready in the big time moment, which we've done a great job with. Besides Ja'Cory Brooks catch the game tying touchdown pass in the Auburn game. Kool-Aid McKinstry has been playing lights out except for a few penalties. Dallas Turner. I want these guys to be sprinkled in. I don't want them to be thrown in and expected to do a lot right away.
I agree, Joe, with the thing you just said. I think the biggest thing that can happen is a situation like happened with guys like Dallas Turner, where your starter goes down. They definitely have to be ready to go. Obviously, losing Christopher Allen to begin the season was tough, but Dallas Turner did a great job stepping up. And I think that's going to be the same with these guys. I don't think they get to start their first season unless they just really show out in practice. But I think if we have starters start going down, then they're really going to have to step up, and I think they will. So, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised to see them get some action in their first season.
Well, Bryce Young is not a big guy, and look what he has done. Bryce Young is a different cat. Yeah, I mean,
he's
honestly,
a different breed.
Let me ask y'all something. Do y'all think Bryce Young is probably one of the best, the best quarterback we ever seen? Now, I made this comment about last year about Mac on Facebook. I think Joe and Clacker said it. I was looking at the numbers. Mac Jones had like 10 times better numbers than Bryce Young. Well, they're almost equal. But Mac was a step above, but yet nobody was talking about him as like they're talking about Bryce Young. My question is, do you think Bryce Young is going to go down as the best quarterback, especially if he wins the Heisman, which he's favored to do? Do you think Bryce Young is going to be the best quarterback ever to come out of Alabama?
Barring any injuries or anything just absolutely off the wall, crazy, ridiculous to happen, I think if he continues at the rate he's at, then there's a pretty good chance that that's the case. I mean, with Mac Jones last year, the success that he had, he had been there for a while. So he was a senior. People are talking about it more with Bryce Young. One, just because of all the hype from him going into Alabama as a 5-star recruit from modern day in California, which is a breeding ground for producing amazing quarterbacks at the collegiate level and the NFL level. And I think Bryce also just being a sophomore, nobody expected him. I certainly myself didn't expect him to be this good in his first year. And so that's really just a testament to how calm he is as a player, and the coaching staff are doing a great job of making sure he's ready for the big moment.
I agree. I kind of want to get back to this subject in a little bit, but we've got a guest coming on in 5 minutes. But
this is true.
Let's changing the subject. Let's talk about Bama basketball this weekend. I predicted it.
We're a basketball school.
We are. I predicted it on last week's show. We went up to Gonzaga in Seattle, beat the number 3 team in the country, beat them handily. If you watch the game, you know that there was a lot of crap foul calls called on Alabama that kept Gonzaga in the game. Alabama absolutely dominated that game. Jaden Shackelford What a night he had. 28 points. That's not too shabby against a good team, against a great team like Gonzaga.
Yeah, he goes 6 for 8 for the 3-point line.
Yeah,
Somebody told me
6
that.
for 8 from the 3-point line. That's crazy. And he pulled down 9 rebounds for good measure. The man almost had a triple-double against probably the best team in the country on the road. That's remarkable.
And yet you pick Alabama over the number 3 team in the nation.
Clark's got more faith in basketball team than he does in the football team. What's up with that, man?
They play, and I'm going to go in and be honest, this weekend's game is going to be tough. Houston is a tough matchup for us, but I've said, if Bama can shoot that, if they can make 13, 14 threes a game, they're the best team in the country. That's a fact.
My friend Christian Sykes.
You got it right, Joey.
He said basketball. Woo. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this seems great.
Even
the ceiling is the roof.
Stingray's. Y'all are live on Stingray's Facebook profile. Awesome. Thank you, Stingray.
Shout out Sting.
Yeah, thank you, Sting. Let's go live on his Facebook page. So basketball. Is this Clark? Let me ask you something. Is this one season and done? Because in 1996, I know y'all too young to remember.
Joey,
but hold on. Listen, in 1996, Auburn had, I think it was 96, 97, somewhere in the late 90s. Auburn had a good basketball team. They had Chris Porter. They went to the playoffs or whatever the fuck. The tournament. And people was excited about Chris Porter. He ended up getting drafted to the Warriors in the second round. Do you think this is kind of like that when they have a good team, but it's going to be one of these one and done seasons, and then they're going to go back to being just another school?
Joey, I'm going to jump in because I want to get my full sentences in before we bring on our guests. No, we're not going to be one and done. This team last year was extremely talented, and they had one of the best SEC seasons they've ever had. Completely new team this year. Great recruiting class. They're just as good, if not better, than they were last year. Top 3 recruiting class next year. These players buy in. Every class that Nados gets, they buy into his system. It's only going to get better from here. I mean, we're going to have seasons that aren't great as the previous seasons once in a while, but this team is going to be great every season going forward and going to contend for an SEC and national championships. There's not going to be a one and done with this team with Nados here.
Why do y'all think? This is from my man Spencer. Why do y'all think A-Hall is not playing Hall kick bucket in it? Well, he said A-Hall. You A-ho. Hall kick butt in the spring game. Why do you think?
Well, he's asking why Jai Hall is not playing now, and I think that goes. There's a lot of internal issues with Jai Hall. If you follow him on social media, he's been posting a lot of stuff on social media that his players you shouldn't be posting. His head is not in it. He's not somebody we need on the field and in the locker room right now. He needs to get his head together, get his act together, and he's not in the right headspace to be playing on a top 4 football team right now. Hope he's very talented, so I hope that gets better next year. But just right now, he's not ready for the big time stage.
Okay, well, I mean, there you have it. But how far do you think they're going to go in the tournament?
That's
if
the
they
real
play
question.
Joey, I'm gonna say like it is. If they play like they did against Gonzaga, they'll be in the Final Four.
Okay, Joe, how far do you think you can
go? I'd say Elite 8. I mean, I haven't watched this team too much. I've only caught a little bit of them because I'm so invested in football, but I was impressed the other night with J.D. Davison. So I think they've got all the talent. It's just about, bringing all that talent together.
And it's also about matchups. It's about who you match up with in the tournament. There's teams we don't match up well with. There's teams we match up really well with. And it's about that. Like this week's game against Houston, that's a tough matchup. Gonzaga was a good matchup for us.
Okay. Well, there you go. So let me ask you one more question. This about Alabama football, and I really need y'all to be honest on this. People are counting out Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati is a dangerous team, and here's why. Because people are not taking them seriously. I'm afraid the players are going to be like, okay, this is just Cincinnati. We can go and just show up. What do you think Cincinnati can do against Alabama?
I don't think they can do too much. Like I said, it might be close for a little bit, but I think Bama covers the 13.5-point spread. I think they make it a living hell for Desmond Ridder with all the blitzing and forcing him into making bad throws, which he has a habit of doing, making bad throws. And Cincinnati also has a habit as a team for playing down to their opponent. So I'm not too terribly worried about them. I mean, this is a team that's narrowly escaped a couple not very great teams this year. So okay. I don't know. I'm not too worried, but obviously I have a month to, marinate on that.
Oh, before we go ahead and continue, let's go ahead and introduce our guests from the podcast. What's the name of your podcast, Martinez?
Slumpbus Podcast, or you can find me also at 49 Reasons Listen, talk all Niners there. But Slumpbus Podcast, we cover all major sports.
And Clacker, introduce the man, the myth, the legend. Go ahead, Clacker.
And our other guest from USA Today, he just wrote a great article about the college football playoff, Pete. And Pete, I apologize, I'm not sure how to say your last name.
Come on, Clack, shout it out.
Thank you for joining us. Do we have him?
It looks like a blank screen. Oh, well.
That's Georgia's playoff chances.
Pete, are you with us? Okay. Well, he'll come back on when he's on. Martinez, tell us a little about your podcast, man.
Yeah, no, started a couple years ago, guys. Just kind of like building on our way, trying to make everything happen on YouTube. But, it's been a great journey. Like we cover, like I mentioned, everything, NFL, fantasy football. Definitely delving in college sports now as things are getting a little bit more exciting down the stretch run here. Obviously, you guys, coming off that ass kicking to Georgia there, you guys have to be feeling pretty good about yourselves. Am I right?
Well, the thing about it is you got two of the biggest Alabama football fans on this show, and we got Clacker here. Clacker is a big Georgia fan. And
No, I'm not.
I don't know. I did hear that one on the last one. I did tune into you guys on your last pod.
Yeah, I told you. Clacker, go ahead and give a proper introduction to the man.
So our next guest, he is from USA Today. He just wrote a great article about the college football playoff that we're definitely going to talk about. Pete, don't know how to say your last name. I don't.
Come on, you give it a shot. You can do.
Pete, I'm going to say Pete Fiutak.
Closer. Fiutak. Pete Fiutak, collegefootballnews.com and USA
right.
Today. Yes, it gets watched by absolutely everybody. But how are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing
good.
So,
how about you?
We got basically how we do. We got two questions apiece. So here we go. Martinez, Pete, here we go. So y'all both watched the SEC championship game. Everybody in the country pretty much counted Alabama out. I know people in the state of Alabama and Georgia counted Alabama out. There was two gentlemen on the show right now that said Alabama was going to win.
I did. Me too. Confident. I picked Alabama.
Oh, you did. So three people.
I'm not rat poisoning up here. I believed.
So that was the answer to my question. What chance? I'm gonna start with Martinez. What chances did you give Alabama for the SEC championship game?
See, unlike the 80% of people that put money on Georgia, I never count Nick Saban out in a big game, particularly against Georgia, where Nick Saban now has a 7-0 record against Kirby Smart, his former coach. I feel at some point during that 21-0 run, he told Kirby, go get daddy a beer, and that's exactly what happened.
Could have said it better myself. So, Pete, what did you see in Alabama that you picked Alabama? I picked Alabama because Bryce Young and if the offensive line was going to show up because we did have problems. But just like Martinez said, Nick Saban, during big games, he comes through for us. So what did you pick C in Alabama?
They needed to have it. And there is something to be said for that little extra juice of a team that has to win a game and is absolutely desperate to pull off a game like that. And certainly Georgia's good. I mean, I on the one hand, I'm not a believer in Spencer. I'm just not a believer in that offense and just the lack of a passing game and Stetson Bennett and the inability to keep pushing the ball down the field. Although he had an okay game, it wasn't his fault. Alabama had to win that, or else it was out. Georgia already knew it was in the college football playoff. So to your point, kind of like the idea of Alabama's desperation there, and they've got the guys, they could hang around with them, and it just obviously worked out. Now, it'll be interesting to see if they play in a rematch because I think the thing flips a little bit. But for now, certainly Alabama's looking the part.
Pete, I got to bring this up because Alabama fans were not too happy with it on Twitter. What makes you think that Alabama will psych themselves out of this game potentially if the two teams meet again in the national championship?
Florida, LSU, Arkansas, first in 97 against Auburn, Texas A&M. I mean, look, it was a great game against Georgia. This is really a great Georgia defense. I know it didn't look the part. I know they struggled. But this offensive line for Alabama didn't all of a sudden get fixed in one day. So I lose John Mechie. The running game is still going to be a question mark going forward. And now you got time to figure it out. And now you get that little extra flip of this thing here where now Georgia's the hunter. They're not expected to win this thing. They're not even expected to, well, they're favored, but they're not expected by a lot of people to get by Michigan. So I do think, I mean, it's Alabama. I'm not going to, you don't lose by betting on Alabama. But I do think at this early stage, like you mentioned before, we got a month before we get there. I do kind of like the idea that all of a sudden Georgia, yeah, it's pretty good. My problem is the Stetson Bennett concern, and that's going to be the probably the deciding factor going forward. See how they play see how he does against Michigan.
So Georgia has a phenomenal running defense, but what makes you so sure that they'll be able to dial up pressure to put on Bryce Young if it need in the national championship? Because they were unable to do that at all, really. Coaches
always adjust. And look, sometimes it doesn't happen. Look at Oregon and Utah, where the thought was that, okay, Oregon, they ran into a buzzsaw in Salt Lake City, and then they played the Pac-12 championship and weren't able to adjust to that. Certainly, again, I'm not 100% saying that this is going to happen or anything, but I do not think it is just going to be the Alabama Invitational at this point going in. I mean, the problems still exist. I mean, it kind of gets glossed over now that the narrative has changed that, again, they had 3 points against Auburn with 97 yards to go in the final minutes. Needed overtime, a couple overtimes to get by them. They almost were taken overtime by Florida. They almost gave away the LSU game, almost gave away the Arkansas game. Now, there's something to be said for teams that are battle-tested and kind of grow through the season are able to get there. I kind of think, though, if Georgia's able to get to the national championship, everybody's going to pick Alabama. And they've got, and again, the script flips. Georgia's got the NFL guys, too, to at least be able to hang around and make that a game.
Well, Martinez, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Katie from Facebook is wondering if we look the same if we play Georgia again, especially that they've seen Bama. So what do you think?
Well, I have to assume they're going to make some sort of adjustment. Like Pete was saying, it's unreasonable to think that a offensive line that allowed 7 sacks the previous weekend is going to have that same level of consistency in another rematch. You have to give Kirby Smart the same benefit of the doubt that Nick Saban will have, that they'll probably make some adjustments in there. And losing Mechie, that is a very big loss, obviously. That does put a lot of pressure on Bryce Young, who was using all of his talents, obviously escaping the pocket, using his legs, using the big arm on the second touchdown of Williams there. To expect him to have that same level of consistency after another game is a lot. But, Pete mentioned an interesting idea to me, or mentioned an interesting idea here of Georgia even getting past this Michigan game. I'm not going to count out Jim Harbaugh. I have a lot of faith out there in Jim Harbaugh, actually. Maybe it's my bias from having the Niners on the background there. I still have a lot of faith. I rocked the khakis back in the day. He's got 2 talented backs there in Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins. I want to see it. I want some new bluff. I need Nick Saban versus Jim Harbaugh in my national title game.
What if that new blood is Cincinnati? So you guys are just automatically assuming you're getting by these Bearcats.
Okay.
I brought that up before y'all came on. I said, Cincinnati, people don't need to count this team. This is not like Georgia and Hawaii a couple years back, about 15, 20 years back. Yeah. This Cincinnati team is dangerous.
I am the biggest anti-Cincinnati guy.
Me too.
But the thing about Cincinnati is it didn't play a good enough schedule to belong here. However, that's not the point. The point is that they had one good win, and it's not fair that they're here when they didn't have to go through Auburn and LSU and Texas A&M and Ohio State and Michigan State and Penn State, or the things that the Power 5 teams are going to do. With that said, the argument still remains. This is a team that beat Notre Dame. It's the only team that beat Notre Dame. In a one-game shot, they absolutely can hang. And again, Alabama's got a weird way of going to take a nap for about 10 minutes a game. They did it again in the Florida game, the LSU game, the Arkansas game, on and on and on. If they do that against Cincinnati, there's going to be a problem. I'm not saying Cincinnati wins this game. I'm just saying don't assume it's a foregone conclusion that that's just going to be a layup.
No, I mean, Pete, I hear what you're saying there. Like Cincinnati, they have multiple NFL guys on that roster. Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant, those guys could do absolute lockdown sticky coverage on Alabama's wide receivers. But I think that Alabama just has so many different pitches, and that's where it gets tougher when you see a group of 5 school versus a Power 5 school. Just the absolute amount of depth, I think, will shine through in the end there.
Without question. And there is a difference. The one X factor here, and don't yell at me for this, but it's actually kind of true because the runaway Heisman winner is going to be on one side. Cincinnati's got the better pro quarterback. Desmond Ridder has gotten better and better as the season has gone on. If he goes off, this gets interesting fast because he is a NFL starting quarterback. And I'm not picking Cincinnati. I'm just saying it's not this layup that, it's automatically Alabama and Georgia, and it might not be because Georgia's not there.
Okay, I got 2 questions for our guests. First question is, man, this is something we talked about before y'all came on the show. I said if Alabama's offensive line is good and gives Bryce Young a decent amount of time, Alabama's unbeatable. First of all, do y'all agree with that? And secondly, who is your champion and why?
Okay, so just to rephrase that, so you said their offensive line gives them the chance there,
basically,
right?
I said as long as Alabama's offensive line is good, I think they're unbeatable. Because as long as Bryce Young has time, I think he can carve up any defense.
I agree with that because you have the best you see, I like Desmond Ridder. I have to disagree here. I think Bryce Young is still the best quarterback remaining, the best quarterback standing.
Pro quarterback.
Bryce is a sophomore.
It's hard for me to look at that because Alabama is slowly becoming quarterback U after having not a quarterback take a team to a playoff game or win a playoff game since Joe Namath, I believe. Mac Jones, Tua, they're suddenly in this playoff race. I'm looking at Bryce Young. How can I count him out? I look at his pedigree, his star rating out. I just like what I saw. He had it all. His ability to escape the pocket, his arm talent. There's a lot to love there. But neither here nor there. I agree with what Clacker was saying here as far as if their offensive line holds up, I don't see how they're going to beat. Just the ability to have the extra time for Williams to get open there. He already had enough time against Georgia, and that was really shining through. That's how he was able to beat them on that deep crossing route earlier. If you give Bryce Young time, I think that, yeah, I agree with that. As far as who's the champion, God.
Roll Tide.
See, it's just hard to bet against the history at this point.
It's an Alabama.
I'm going to be bold here. I'm going to be bold. I mentioned it earlier. I'm just riding the wave with Michigan. I'm just going with it this year.
Okay.
I just got to see it. He missed out on the Super Bowl in 2013. Jim, I believe in you. I know every time I believed in you in the past, you've let me down, man. But this time will be different for the Cats.
All right, Pete, go ahead because we got to get to Spencer real fast. Go ahead, Pete.
I will answer your question quickly. Yeah, that's the X factor here. And I did say pro quarterback, not college. And the problem with Bryce Young is just I'm biased against. I like quarterbacks being like the 6'4", 225 guy. It's just a size thing with Bryce Young and holding up. It's certainly passing level and talent. There's no question.
John Elway, I see you.
There's no question there. But yeah, he's John Elway was pretty good, but Bryce Young's obviously fantastic, and that is the answer. If you're telling me that he gets time, but even when he doesn't get time, he produces. Bryce Young's not the question mark here because even when he wasn't getting a whole lot of time to work, he was lighting teams up. It really is just a question of whether or not the defense actually can keep holding up for those certain stretches where they kind of fall asleep. Like, again, against the running game against Florida, where all of a sudden it was over and then it wasn't. Again, when Arkansas was able to start rocking and come back. So I think the defense is more of a question than the offensive line, because Bryce Young is going to produce no matter what.
And your champion?
I always default to Alabama. Alabama's always you cannot go wrong. If you're trying to decide between a couple of other options, you always go to Alabama. With that said, if somehow it's JT Daniels who steps in, if they figure out that they need to go for the home run swing, and they take the pro quarterback and they don't make the same mistake they did a few years ago, and they realize we got a pro quarterback sitting on our bench instead of the nice college guy, if JT Daniels comes in and he rocks against Michigan, I'd probably go Georgia. I just don't think Stetson Bennett's got enough in the tank to be your national championship quarterback.
Before we plug everybody's thing, but see, this is why I don't like live, because my vocabulary is shot. I got that high school.
It's been a long day.
So I look at Spencer. Spencer's, it's something that I'd said for a very long time, that the conference championships obviously don't matter, and to me, it feels like I'm old school. I would think that the conference championship, like if you're a conference champion, that automatically gets you into the playoffs before. Well, let me explain. I don't believe like if you're not a conference champion, you should be in.
Let me help you on this one. I know exactly what you're trying to say is, if I may, if you're not good enough to win your conference championship, why should you be allowed to be good enough to win the national championship?
Exactly. Yeah,
it's my wild card. I don't like wild cards. I love the NCAA tournament, but it's the argument that, if you can finish 8th in your conference, get hot for a couple games, and all of a sudden you're in the Final Four. There is something to be said about that. If you're not, I made this argument anti-Alabama a couple of years ago. Alabama wasn't even good enough to win its own division. Why should it be in the college football playoff? And then it wins 2 games and it's the national champion. So obviously they're very good. But yeah, it's why we need an expanded playoff. That's why you should be able to win your way into these things. And it's why it's silly that we had to have the discussion of Cincinnati versus Oklahoma State versus whomever, because if you win your conference championship, you should be allowed to get in this thing.
So the reason I asked that, because Spencer had a good question. Did you think the defensive line held back so they can not get hurt for the playoffs? Martinez?
No, I think you just never hold back against a division rival, especially when you have a chance to bury them like this. When you are 0-6 going into that game against a team, you don't want to go to 0-7. There's no holding back. You think anyone, Kirby Smart included, would have want to hold back, especially to cement a perfect season? I think that's just something that would put Georgia, cement them in that upper echelon forever. I mean, they're already obviously good and highly looked upon. I mean, the recruiting numbers show it. But to be able to have that over Alabama, especially when so many of these recruiting decisions are coming down to the wire, I believe it's pretty much Georgia, Alabama 1-2 as far as like most of the star ratings right now. To have that national spotlight on you, I think means a lot to these kids in high school, are deciding where to go. So no, you don't hold back. I think that there's not a football guy around that would ever justify holding back in a big game like that.
And especially if you have an opportunity to kick Alabama out of the playoffs.
Exactly.
You don't want to play Alabama again. And this was Georgia's chance to win the championship. And I think they lost it just like that after losing to Alabama. That's my belief. Pete, before we let you go, what do you think?
No, they weren't holding back. I mean, but again, when you're talking about one of those elite versus elite matchups, again, don't discount. I mean, it goes in every sport. Don't discount the juice factor of Alabama had to win that game. Oh, they're the underdog. Nobody believes in us. Look at the rat poison being fed us. It just sometimes you get both teams have equal amount of talent, like you said, recruiting wise, NFL wise. They're both got the same guys except a quarterback. There was a big advantage there. But again, the desperation side of things for Alabama versus Georgia, that was the difference. I'll be really curious to see what happens with this Georgia team against Michigan, because if Georgia plays like it's good enough to play, I don't think Michigan has a shot in this thing.
Well, real fast before we let you go, Pete, we'll start with you. Tell everybody where we can find you on social media. Tell everybody where we can read you. And tell everybody about the new movie you're probably going to be starring in later today. That was a bad joke. I shouldn't have said it. Go ahead.
Knock it out. Collegefootballnews.com is where all our stuff is. And COL Football News is our Twitter handle, or Pete Fiutak, Fiutak.
Real deal. Julian Martinez. Tell everybody where you can find that hit podcast. It's going to be #1 all over the billboards and all over your heart. Tell everybody.
Well, definitely you can bust a slump with the Slumpbuster Podcast. Find us at Slumpbuster Pod on Instagram, at Slumpbuster Pod on Twitter, at Slumpbuster Pod on TikTok. We don't really do much there, but hey, every now and then. I don't really got the dance moves for it. Follow my personals too at Fiutak on Twitter and Instagram for all my content.
That's awesome. Listen, I got a feeling that we're going to see Julian a lot more on the CTS. And Pete, you're always welcome to come back on the CTS. I'm shocked that you accepted this invite, because I was like, when Clacker told me that we had you coming on, I was like, no way. But hey, thank you for coming on.
Anytime, guys. You guys have a great night.
Thank you so much.
That's what I'm talking about. You have a good one, man. And there we go. We had the man on here.
I'm not gonna lie. I did not expect him to come on after I called him out on Twitter about his.
I mean, he was a good guess. He was very knowledgeable, and I agree with what he said.
I can't believe he.
I do think he's wrong about Desmond
Ritter. On the USA Today. It's like, wow, he's actually here. I thought he was gonna be a lot older. About
the whole Desmond Ritter thing, I disagree with, but
Clacker, you think everybody's wrong?
No, I think that was wrong too. But oh,
Joe, you thought it was wrong? Okay, it must have been wrong then.
Well, the whole Desmond Ritter argument about him being more pro-ready is ridiculous, considering the fact that Bryce Young's a sophomore. And
Bryce, this is his first year as a starter in the best conference.
Exactly. And Desmond Ritter is playing in not the best conference, so I think that's ridiculous. But obviously, everybody has their own opinions. I've already talked about how I don't really believe in Desmond Ritter, and I don't think he's all that great. But I respect that decision, and I guess we'll find out, because he'll have to prove it against Alabama. That's going to be tough.
Well, Joe, you want to introduce our next guest?
Is he on here?
Yeah.
You got him in the waiting queue?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, our next guest is somebody who I've done some podcasts with in the past, and somebody who I think would be a great addition to the CTS team. And so that's why I decided to go ahead and pitch the idea to Joey to have him on here. And it is Tyler Shibish. He's got his Vikings jersey on because his Vikings are getting ready to play. But Tyler, how you doing, man?
Good. They already started, actually. It's the first quarter. Both
are they losing it?
Field goal already.
Man.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, hi, my name's Tyler. Like Joe said, I did some student radio with him at the University of Alabama. That's where we met. I'm actually in Tuscaloosa right now. My girlfriend's graduating on Saturday, and so I'm here for that. So that's exciting. Normally, I'll have a better mic and camera
usually
setup.
You got a 2-monitor setup and all this crazy stuff. I can tell when you're Tuscaloosa because your internet's always horrible.
Yeah, my bad about that. But yeah, so
come on, get it together.
Obviously, I'm a big Bama boy, and I'm a big Minnesota Vikings guy, and that's what I got brought on to do originally. We're doing a NFL show on Sundays starting soon called Sunday Night Scoreboard. We're going to be talking about different, we're going to highlight a couple of key matchups throughout the day, some big news that happened throughout the week, and kind of previewing. It'll be before the night game, so we can kind of preview the night game that's going to go on. So that's exciting. Also, I see the comments, Roll Tide. So.
Yeah. But like I said, I'm glad you can join me on here because we've had a lot of success in the past with our podcasts, and I expect some big things from our Sunday NFL show. I know a lot of people, Joey brought up, have been clamoring for an NFL show because NFL is very popular, and so I'm glad that we can make this work, and I'm excited to have you on the team along with Clack and Joey.
Yep. Did Joey dip out?
I think Joey did.
Joey just dipped out on us. What's up with that?
Yeah, didn't say anything. I guess I was being too long-winded.
Wow.
Oh, man.
All
Joey
right.
cannot take the heat.
Yeah.
Actually, I was talking on the phone with Julian Martinez. He wrote us a nice little letter, and I'll put it right here.
Oh, I thought this was a social experiment to see if we could run this without.
We cover Clacker's ugly face right here. It says, thank you again, guys, for the invite. It was a blast hanging with some of the Southern boys. Boo-boo. I bring the whiskey and the rye this time.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, same for it. And Spencer, it was. I mean, not Spencer.
Joey, get it together. You've been drinking whiskey.
Julian, it was cool to have you on, man. Something tells me we're going to see a lot more on other CTS shows. High five, Tyler. So while I was talking on the phone, what was y'all talking about?
Just kind of introducing myself, talking about the NFL show that we got set up to go, and just kind of talking about like a little bit of my background, what I might bring to the table.
So, I got a question. What do you think you're going to bring to the CTS?
I think I know a good deal about pretty much every sport, so I think I can bring a lot
more than I do. He's better. He's more well-versed than I am. I'm a one-trick pony.
Yeah, so I know like a lot of it is college focused, but I'm more of a pro sports guy, but I know like a little bit about everything, I think. So I think I can bring a lot of versatility to the show.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question. If you get it wrong, you can't come on the CTS.
Oh, man.
Knows it. You have to get it right. What's the name of Clacker's imaginary girlfriend?
Oh, my God.
Ooh. I have no idea. I guess I'm vanished for life.
Neither does he.
His name is Michael.
Joey's imaginary wife, though? That's the question.
Oh,
that's easy. That's easy. Wait. I can answer that. Her name is Katie Morgan.
All right.
In your dreams.
Who Katie Morgan is.
In your dreams.
Look up.
Yeah.
Look all up. Right. Go put it in your Google machine.
Tyler, thank you for hopping on here and chatting with us. Look forward to having you on the CTS, and hopefully your Vikings can pull out a dub tonight. And I'm really pulling for Justin Jefferson to have a big fantasy game because he's on my team and I'm in the playoffs.
Ooh,
hang on. Oh, time out. Before you go, Tyler, somebody says you're taking my place because I suck.
What?
What?
Yeah, somebody put that on Facebook. Yeah,
but
cool.
Actually, before I go, someone did ask.
I think it's Stingray, but go ahead.
Someone did ask me a question. Who do I think the next Bama receiver up for after the injury is? I think the safe bet would probably be Ja'Cory Brooks. I mean, he was taking over for like Jameson when he got ejected, and then he had the touchdown against Auburn. I think he's been pretty solid. I don't know what happened to Trayshawn Holden. He would have been my pick going in, but I think he's been playing less and less, and like the freshmen have been stepping up. So I got to go Ja'Cory Brooks. He'll probably be the starting like receiver aside J-Mo. And I don't know. I like the Christian Leary matchup as well when he lines up as a running back, just because I like running backs running or wide receivers running routes out of the backfield. But Ja'Cory Brooks, I mean, he had a great game against Auburn, so that's my bet.
So. Tyler, honestly, you know what? If you do take my place, you're gonna be a great replacement because I think you're gonna do big things here at CTS, and I think honestly, I'm sorry, it was Jesse Sanchez from the main event. Okay, thank you, Jesse. But honestly, I think you're gonna do big things with the CTS, and we're looking forward to you coming on. And hey man, if anything, we need to thank you for coming on, man, because it's gonna be exciting show watching what's it called, the scoreboard?
Yeah, Sunday night scoreboard
with Joe Will and Clacker. And hey, maybe you do about 4 or 5 more shows and give me a break.
I look forward to it.
With that said, Tyler, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, of course. Thank y'all for having me.
Oh, you ugly.
Now we got Joe back.
Okay, somebody said on Facebook that this show is fire. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jesse, probably.
You know,
it's Jesse a CTS-Sports term. So,
by the way, so let's go ahead. We're finally the last 10 minutes of the show. Picks. You know, I got a
phone going off.
You
got a phone going off, Joey. It's what you got.
It's my wife. I don't know.
Oh God. Joey's in trouble.
What you want, woman?
All right.
Hey, what I tell you? Call me on this phone.
Okay, we're really doing this.
You don't call me on this phone, girl. I'm gonna tell you something, girl. When I'm, hey, girl, listen to me. Daddy gets mad. I am your daddy.
Oh, it's his daughter, probably.
Call me daddy one more time, please. Yeah, that's right.
All right.
I'm on the show live, by the way.
We're gonna talk over Joey. Live. Your picks for the championship, the Final Four.
Yeah, girl. Yeah.
I'm sorry, the playoff four. Let me specify
the playoff four.
What'd you say?
I think
Hey,
Georgia's
Daddy.
That's right, baby.
Oh my gosh! Get out of here! Right. This is a sports show.
Daddy will spank you.
Is Stingray there?
No, Stingray's not here. This is. I gotta go. I love you.
That was definitely scripted.
Okay. No, it was not scripted. So I guess Joe said fuck it. Anyway, so Clacker, what's your picks for the playoffs? Who's going to the finals? Alabama and who?
Alabama and Georgia.
Alabama and Georgia. And are you going to pick Alabama this time? Please don't.
I'll make my pick when that day. I'll pick my day. I'm not picking on that one yet.
Okay. I wonder what Joe's pick was. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is why it's hard to do a show with a bunch of 20-year-olds, especially in this generation. So sensitive. One day y'all gonna have a girlfriend and they're gonna like talk to you like sexy and shit.
All right. We're not a girlfriend show. We're a sports show. Let's keep it on that.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, so you got any last words, comments, concerns before we head out?
It. We'll see y'all next Thursday night.
All right. That's right. So before we go, remember to follow us on Twitter, on Rolling with the Tide Twitter page. Also, check us out on Facebook. On Tuesdays nights, we got 3rd and 3. Monday nights, we got the main event for all the boxing fans. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel, give us some love, like us, do something. Even if you don't want to watch the show, just play the show for like 10 minutes and then walk away and go cook something. Do something. Just, I don't know, subscribe, damn it. With that said, I'm Joey. That's Clacker. Joe Will is probably wishing that he could talk to a girl on the phone. I don't know. But we're going to head out. Clacker, say goodbye to everybody.
We'll see y'all next week. Roll.